Sargon and Vaush did a debate a few days ago, and it perfectly encapsulated the problems that I have with liberalism as a solution to our problems in the current year. This is what I like to call the Liberal Overton Trap. That liberalism seems to be uniquely susceptible to being constantly dragged leftward, despite the good intentions of some liberals that are closer to our side. First, though, I want to give a quick introduction to this debate. I'll assume anyone watching this knows who Sargon is, but as for Vaush, he is a libertarian socialist who ideally wants a peaceful transition to a socialist market economy based on cooperatives. However, he also says that he thinks a violent revolution is still likely, whether it will be fascist or socialist. The debate was ostensibly on capitalism versus socialism, but it immediately swerved off into cultural and political battles rather than economics. Economics certainly were discussed, but the core of the debate was much more about political framing, immigration, and culture. Vaush said that he didn't really know what Sargon believed other than claiming to be an English and/or classical liberal, and he said that he had far-right associations with UKIP. Vaush himself is of course no kind of liberal, and openly so. He may claim to support liberty, and maybe he does, but he's a libertarian socialist, and that is an explicitly anti-liberal ideology. But that didn't stop him from trying to concern troll Sargon into accepting left-leaning liberal premises, so Sargon could either be moved further to the left or prove he's not a real liberal. Principally, Vaush tried to argue that if Sargon was a liberal, surely he must support open immigration policies to maximize economic output.
I have no idea what you believe in. I have no idea what driving political philosophy you ascribe to.
Well, I'm an English liberal, so I believe in constitutional values, free markets, personal freedoms, innate human rights, things like that.
Open borders, free economic trade.
No.
So not a classical liberal.
Not open borders at the very least.
Or at the very least, lax immigration to allow markets, people, and labor to flow freely across borders to maximize economic output.
Well, it depends what you're trying to achieve, doesn't it?
Yeah, I suppose.
Of course, Sargon wasn't going to give in to this line of argumentation. Anyone that knows him should know that he has pretty strong views on limiting immigration. But Vaush continued to try to push the point later on in the debate, claiming that if Sargon was a true liberal, then he surely would support open immigration policies to maximize economic output.
You used to pretend to be a classical liberal. One of the concepts behind classical liberalism is the idea of maximizing economic output through the free exchange of goods and labor across borders. That's a pretty classic adherent to classical liberalism.
And Vaush is of course right. Maximizing economic output through the free market is, of course, the beef of liberalism. But these arguments hardly made Sargon change his opinions on immigration. So, no loss for the right-wing liberals, right? What's the whole problem I opened up this video with if Sargon can so easily brush these attacks off? Well, the problem is, sure, Sargon, an independent political commentator, might be able to brush these attacks off. But the state of actual real-world liberalism doesn't show anything like that. All the political parties, all the established entities that are supposed to push some form of liberalism or another, do fall for these very sort of attacks. Both the center-left and the center-right come to agree that mass immigration is justifiable for some supposed economic benefit, whether it's the Heritage Foundation, the Republican Party, the Lib Dems, or even Donald Trump. Any organization that promotes some sort of liberalism falls back into this same sort of trap on mass immigration. But this, of course, isn't how liberalism has to be. It is true that liberalism is about maximizing economic output through the free market, but if we actually went back and see how real liberals functioned in the real world in regards to immigration, would we see anything like this? Maybe John Locke supported some form of open borders in theory, but I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about the real-world liberal governance that we have had in the past. If we went back to the liberal-dominated Victorian period, would we see mass immigration? How many Muslims came to England during the Victorian period to increase their supply of labor? What was Gladstone's opinion on mass immigration? A quick Google search will show he was certainly quite woke on the Catholic question. The period up until the First World War is even often called Liberal England. So, where was the finely tuned immigration policy? What amount of Muslim immigration did Gladstone judge as being perfect for maximum economic output? Of course, zero, or pretty close to zero, is the answer. Though it might be true that liberal Victorian England had high immigration levels compared to prior centuries, especially considering the influx of Irish refugees, it certainly did not have anything approximating modern mass migration. I'm sure the ruling class wasn't stupid. I'm sure that they would have realized that increasing the labor pool would have had benefits. The fact is that our real-world liberal governance cared far more about the cultural issues that Sargon highlights than the supposed economic benefits that our libertarian socialist has highlighted. But that raises a different question. If I've just proven that a very different form of liberalism is certainly possible, then what's the problem with liberalism that I started this video discussing? The issue, the Liberal Overton Trap, is that despite the good intentions of some liberals, in the current year, any form of liberalism is inherently dragged to the left. Don't you know gay marriage is a benefit to the economy? Don't you know weed is a benefit to the economy? Liberalism allows any social issue to be commodified, and what a surprise, the commodification always goes in a leftward direction. Sure, it's a fact that in liberal Victorian England, opposing anti-sodomy laws would have been unthinkable, and supporting them today is fringe even on the far right. The issue is, despite more conservative forms of liberalism existing in the past, modern liberalism simply has no framework to push back against the Overton window as it shifts to the left. And every new shift to the left gets rubber-stamped with the trademark of liberalism, and suddenly, something that would have been unthinkable less than a century prior, like mass immigration, becomes a self-evident part of liberalism. And this very liberalism isn't even just being subverted by fellow liberals. Again, going back to Vaush, he's explicitly a Marxist. That means, by definition, he is anti-liberal. Liberals get the bullet too. Real progressives, the real vanguard of the left, openly reject the label liberal, yet, when someone tries to push back on the Overton window, back on their progress, these leftists will never hesitate to appeal to liberal values. After all, don't you know, Sargon, mass immigration will increase our GDP. Thank you everyone for watching. Please like, comment, subscribe, and hit the bell. And most importantly, please share this video with anyone who you think will enjoy it. Thanks.